What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Fight IQ MMA. Today, let's dive into Michael Chandler squashing his beef with Dustin Poirier. Ever since their UFC 281 fight in 2022, Poirier has been vocal about his frustrations, accusing Chandler of cheating and even calling his personality fake. Despite this, he recently admitted he enjoys watching Chandler fight. Ahead of his bout with Paddy Pimblett, Chandler spoke with Shaq MMA about various topics, including Poirier, who is currently sorting out details for his retirement fight. While Poirier may not have any love for Chandler, it seems the bad blood isn't mutual. Man, he's an absolute legend. He's a guy who really grew up inside of the UFC, a guy who has earned his stripes. His hash paid in full. He really has paid in full for everything that he's accomplished, everything that he's done, the wins, that he has had, the losses that he's taken, and the way he came back from. Those losses fighting for the title. Numerous times, I think that's his legacy, and it'll be tough to watch, for all the fans to watch him lay the gloves down in New Orleans. Hopefully he can make that happen this summer, and I'll bet they're most likely. There's no word yet on who Dustin Poirier will face in his final fight or when it will take place, but Beneil Dariush recently told Submission Radio that he's hearing a Poirier versus Max Holloway trilogy fight is in the works. Earlier in February, Poirier mentioned to Theo that discussions were happening about a summer fight in New Orleans, though nothing has been confirmed. What do you think about a Poirier versus Holloway trilogy? Would you be excited to see it? Let us know in the comments. Meanwhile, Justin Gaethje is calling for a UFC title shot once again. Fresh off a dominant win over Rafael Fiziev at UFC 313, someone from Gaethje's account sent a message directly to Dana White and the UFC, demanding a title fight. I won 3 out of my last 4, only losing in an exhibition fight. I have to fight for the belt. Dana White, I'm ready. The way the post was worded led some fans to believe that it was Justin Gaethje's manager, Ali Abdelaziz, using his account to call for a title fight. Before UFC 313, Gaethje was unsure if a win over Rafael Fiziev would make him the number 1 contender, but after his victory, he now believes he deserves a shot. However, Arman Tsarukyan recently told the MMA Hour that he doesn't think it's fair for Gaethje to get the next title shot. Meanwhile, Islam Makhachev has openly expressed interest in fighting Gaethje next, adding to the UFC's many options in the stacked lightweight division. With top contenders like Tsarukyan, Charles Oliveira, Gaethje, and now Mateusz Gamrot all vying for a title shot, and currently without booked fights, it will be interesting to see who the UFC selects to face Makhachev. On Tuesday's episode of the MMA Hour, Fiziev showed his support for Gaethje, saying that if a Gaethje versus Makhachev fight happens, he's firmly on Team Gaethje. I wish so much Justin Gaethje can fight for the belt. I wish it so much, man. I think he deserves it more than anybody on this division, more than everybody for sure, and I hope he gets it if he fights against Islam. I'm with him, I'm on his side. Fiziev went on to say that he believes Gaethje should have had a title shot before his loss to Max Holloway. As for Fiziev, after suffering his second loss to Gaethje, he is now considering making a big change himself. I'm starting to think about changing weight divisions because I cut weight very easy this time. And this was short notice. These guys have trouble. If I come there, they'll be in trouble. Man, everybody. Fiziev revealed that he has been considering a drop to 145 for quite some time, which could be interesting as the division prepares to crown a new champion. Meanwhile, Conor McGregor made headlines by sending a message to Joe Rogan. While his return to the octagon remains uncertain, McGregor seems focused on something else. Getting on. The Joe Rogan experience. Last night, he tweeted at Rogan, urging him to respond to his messages, essentially asking to appear on the podcast. What's up, Joe Rogan? My man, I messaged you. Are you looking for a guest in the podcast? I have a great one for you. Would you want to see Conor McGregor on the Joe Rogan experience? It's an interesting possibility, especially considering their past feud. During UFC 229, Rogan called out McGregor for an illegal knee against Khabib Nurmagomedov, which led to McGregor lashing out at him years later in his infamous Twitter rant.
That was an illegal knee on the head of a grounded opponent. Shut up, Joe, you little fool, yeah. What are you talking about? Smash this and smash that. What was smashed? My knee into his eye socket, yeah? Sake. That's a knee to a grounded opponent. Call the cops. Ticket.
After their past feud, Joe Rogan also commented on Conor McGregor's alleged PED use following his leg injury, which led McGregor to fire back on social media. He criticized Rogan for never fighting in the UFC, only competing in Taekwondo, and even accused him of PED use. An ironic claim since Rogan has openly discussed his TRT therapy on his podcast. It will be interesting to see how this situation unfolds. Meanwhile, McGregor made headlines again after getting booed in his hometown of Dublin during a concert last night.
It sounds like you're in love with Conor McGregor here. Oh, beautiful. And I'll be straight with you. From what I heard, he's actually out there right now.
Alex Pereira's future at heavyweight isn't looking promising, at least according to Daniel Cormier. This past weekend, Magomed Ankalaev defeated Pereira by decision, ending his light heavyweight reign. While Pereira is now focused on reclaiming his belt, discussions about a potential move to heavyweight have been put on hold. On the latest episode of Good Guy, Bad Guy with Chael Sonnen, Cormier stated that if Ankalaev's pressure was too much for Pereira, then dealing with the power and pressure of heavyweights would be overwhelming. I don't think he's strong enough to go with anyone bigger. The amount of pressure that Anave was able to generate without danger coming back at him, those heavyweights would kind of just walk right through what he was throwing at him. While some fans were frustrated with Magomed Ankalaev's clinch-heavy approach, Kamaru Usman placed the blame on Alex Pereira. On the latest episode of Pound for Pound with Henry Cejudo, Usman criticized Pereira for not doing enough to counter Ankalaev's strategy. I'm not angry about the 3-2 decision for a knife, but I think in that 5th round, Alex P. did come out with a little bit more sense of urgency. He looked like he was trying to fight and actually go to try to finish the fight, but Anivi would push him against the fence and wear him down again. Hey, it's your job to get off the fence. If you're not doing that, then why would the ref save you? Henry Cejudo believes Alex Pereira's rock star lifestyle has finally caught up with him. In response to his pound-for-pound co-host, Triple C shared his thoughts on the situation. I think Alex P's lifestyle is finally kind of catching up to him. The travel, the shama, a lot of the skit, and a lot of stuff that he's actually doing, it's really not doing him any service. The only reason why I say this is because his body looked a little different, dude. He looked with the little pudgier, he looked a little thicker in the face. And we have to credit Megan Kive, he did a really good job at his composure. Bro, he didn't react to a lot of P's things. The dude has his hands up the whole damn time. And it's not just that, but Alex P also has trouble with southpaws. Given Alex Pereira's dominant reign over the division, Dana White has confirmed that he will receive an immediate rematch. Following his UFC 3-13 victory, Magomed Ankalaev seemed very impressed with his own performance and had this to say about it. I just rewatched my fight again. 20 minutes of this fight was all striking, and most of this 20 minutes, I was the one putting the pressure, the game plan to use wrestling to open the striking, and I landed the hardest shots. I landed more significant strikes. Are you interested in seeing this rematch? Despite his loss, Alex Pereira seems to be in good spirits, frequently posting videos of himself dancing and enjoying life. Meanwhile, Khamzat Chimaev recently opened up about the toughest fight of his UFC career. While he has dominated most of his opponents, finishing 5 of his 8 UFC wins in the first round, fighters like John Phillips, Gilbert Burns, and Kamaru Usman managed to push him further, with the Burns and Usman fights going the distance. During an interview with Azamat Shev, Chimaev was asked to reveal who his toughest opponent has been. Probably it was Usman he defended against my wrestling. Very well, wrestling is good. He defended my takedowns. Well, he didn't let me choke his neck. I tried to choke him for 5 minutes, but his defense was too good. In his fight, Khamzat Chimaev went 4 for 2 on takedown attempts and controlled his opponent for over 7 minutes, but couldn't secure a submission, as he mentioned in a recent video. Since his victory over Robert Whittaker in October and Dricus, Du Plessis' win over Sean Strickland in February, there has been no official word on when a Chimaev versus DDP fight might happen, though all signs point to Chimaev being next in line for a title shot. Meanwhile, Leon Edwards is still interested in fighting Belal Muhammad. Muhammad believes Edwards should wait 3 years before another title shot, but ahead of his fight with Sean Brady in London, he's confident he'll get his chance after Jack Della Maddalena and Shavkat Rakhmonov, assuming he wins. Ahead of the Edwards versus Brady fight next weekend, Edwards spoke about a rematch with Muhammad on his YouTube channel, attributing his UFC 304 loss to an off night and stating he needs to avenge the defeat.
I'd love to run it back with Belal. I feel like it's difficult to say he wins. Like I said, I probably prefer Belal because he was the last guy to defeat me, and even though I had an off night, I feel like that's one I need to get back. I truly believe I am the better fighter between me and him, and go out there and prove it again. But now I'm focusing on Sean. Focusing on Sean Brady right now, and I gotta go out there in London, get rid of him, and then once I get rid of him, then Tarsha next to me.
With Belal Muhammad and Jack Della Maddalena set to fight at UFC 315 in May, Dana White mentioned on an Instagram live stream that the winner will likely face Shavkat Rakhmonov. This leaves Leon Edwards' title shot uncertain, and if JDM wins, Ariel Helwani speculates that Islam Makhachev could move up to welterweight to fight him. Makhachev has been vocal about his desire to become a double champion, but refuses to fight Muhammad out of respect as training partners, similar to Aljamain Sterling avoiding Merab Dvalishvili. If Islam moves up, it could create chaos in the lightweight division, where multiple contenders are eyeing a title shot. Meanwhile, if Muhammad wins, a fight with Shavkat may not happen until late 2025 or early 2026, depending on injuries, potentially delaying Edwards' title hopes by over a year, raising the question of whether waiting is even worth it. In other news, Dan Hooker provided an update on his hand surgery after being forced out of his UFC 313 fight with Justin Gaethje. Despite still recovering, Hooker is already pushing for a return at International Fight Week in June, calling out Arman Tsarukyan, though Beneil Dariush has also shown interest in fighting him. Given Hooker's track record of exciting fights and performance bonuses, fans would likely welcome his return. Meanwhile, Ryan Garcia recently joked about fighter pay in Dana White's new boxing league. While White and Turki Al-Sheikh are confident their new league will change the sport, Garcia believes that if fighters are only paid a small fraction of revenue, similar to UFC pay, the league might struggle to take off. During an interview with Theo Vaughn, Garcia didn't hold back in making light of the situation.
What do you make of Dana White entering the world of boxing and teaming up with Cheek Turkey?
Yeah, I mean, if they pay like the UFC, though, we might not like it. We might not like it, but I'm happy, Dana's getting involved. He's a great dude, and I'm sure they're going to do big things.
Dana White and Turki Al-Sheikh's new joint boxing venture could shake up the industry in more ways than one. During an in-person appearance on The Ariel Helwani Show on Tuesday, boxing promoter Lou DiBella weighed in on recent comments from Ari Emanuel about the Ali Act. DiBella expressed concern that Dana and Turki's new promotion might be a sign that the Ali Act could eventually be repealed. Who's more in with the government right now than Dana when Ari Emanuel starts talking a couple of weeks ago about the Ali Act and how it was bad law that said to me Ali Act doesn't have a lot of time left. While Dana White and Turki Al-Sheikh's new boxing league has yet to announce an official debut date, Turki mentioned on the Pat McAfee Show that an event could take place in September. Meanwhile, the UFC and Dana White are facing accusations of scamming casual fans during the UFC 313 main event between Alex Pereira and Magomed Ankalaev. Near the end of round 5, the UFC displayed unofficial stats, showing Pereira landing 76 significant strikes to Ankalaev's 64, which, combined, with commentators suggesting Pereira had won, led many fans to believe he was the likely victor. Adding to the controversy, a UFC commentator allegedly read a betting ad encouraging viewers to place bets on Pereira as the underdog, even after the fight had ended and before the official decision was announced. Many also pointed out that the scorecards took longer than usual to be read. These factors have sparked outrage, with critics accusing the UFC of misleading casual fans into placing bets, only to redirect them to a gambling sponsor. One TikTok user even called out the tactic in a viral video, adding to the growing backlash.
One of the most disgusting things I've ever seen happened during the UFC 313 main event towards the end of it, where Alex Pereira and Ankalaev were fighting in round 5 with 21 seconds left. They showed the round-by-round strike numbers towards the end of the fight. With 21 seconds left, these were one of the most disgustingly misrepresented statistics I've ever seen. At the end of the fight, Jon Anik was announcing that the odds are on the board. They showed plus 100 Alex Pereira, and Jon Anik made sure everybody knew that you could gamble on the fights as long as the decision hasn't been read. The UFC and Vegas, knowing that a bunch of casual fans are watching Alex Pereira fight this 5-round fight, they showed completely false statistics to claim as if Alex Pereira was outstriking Magomed Ankalaev in 4 of the 5 rounds, then showing him at plus 100 and having Jon Anik read that you can gamble on the fights, especially commentating it, knowing everybody's watching, waiting for this decision, and then the decision being unanimous, one card being 49-46, and it taking that long to be read is a little bit suspicious, knowing you put the wrong stats on the board and showed that Alex Pereira was plus 100 after the fight. I've never seen the UFC have commentary explain that you could gamble right after the fight. Never. And if they have never emphasized it to the extremity that they did in this fight, knowing how many casual fans were watching, especially after showing completely false statistics right as the fight was ending. These are the correct striking stats. You could see Magomed Ankalaev versus Alex Pereira. These numbers do not add up to what they showed on that screen. When you look at the UFC stats website, they show round by round. Alex Pereira is red, Magomed Ankalaev is blue. You can clearly see they completely botched round 4 and round 5. They tried to make it seem where Alex Pereira was outstriking Ankalaev in those rounds. It was completely false. On top of that, they took away 2 strikes away from Ankalaev in round 2. Fine, I'll give you that as a mistake. But round 3 was so much wider of a discrepancy on the stats that they showed because it was such a close round that they wanted to make it seem like Alex Pereira ran away with it. This was genuinely disgusting. It is preying on people who are only watching Alex Pereira, trying to show them that, look, he's plus money. He's the underdog after he outstruck Ankalaev for 4 of 5 rounds.
At the end of the fight, the official stats were released, and surprisingly, they weren't even close in favor of Magomed Ankalaev. Earlier, the unofficial stats near the end of round 5 showed him landing 64 significant strikes, but the final numbers had him at 94, a massive difference of 30 strikes. Meanwhile, Alex Pereira's stats only changed by 5 strikes from the unofficial to official count. This discrepancy, combined with the UFC's commentary implying Pereira was winning and displaying stats that favored him, has led many to believe the UFC misled fans. Adding to the controversy, a betting ad aired during the fight, promoting Pereira as the underdog and even suggesting viewers could still place bets after the fight had ended. This has fueled accusations that the UFC scammed casual fans into thinking Pereira would win, influencing last-minute betting decisions. The MMA community has since weighed in on the situation, with many voicing frustration over what they see as a deceptive tactic. The unofficial stats are always inaccurate, I know. But why they take so long to read an unanimous decision after they conveniently showed that Alex was plus money? And when it's a potato fight, there will be casual fans watching who might not know. They're inaccurate. If you watch the stat counter, they did the same for Strickland versus Eisner. They had Izzy leading on strikes in the mid-fight stat counter. I agreed. They tried to milk potato hard with the betting line. But you should already know. Those strike stats are unofficial. Till after the fight, I've seen 30 additional 6 strikes to be added to a account. After the fight was wondering why they took so long to get Buffer in there and Dre had the scorecards. I remember watching and hearing this live and was like, what do they never do this super sus? It thought the exact same thing first time. I ever heard them announce we can still place a wager before decision. Luckily, I had Big Ank ML. While there's no concrete evidence that the UFC did anything wrong, and it could have been a simple mistake, many in the MMA community were unhappy with how the situation unfolded. Critics argue that the discrepancy between unofficial and official stats, combined with commentary suggesting Alex Pereira was winning and a last-minute betting ad promoting him as the underdog, misled casual fans, especially those unfamiliar with the scoring system. Some believe this took advantage of newer UFC viewers by creating a false perception of the fight's outcome. What do you think about the situation?